When was the last time you were genuinely excited about something? I don't mean interested. I mean excited. The kind where you can't sleep the night before because your brain won't stop thinking about it. I used to feel that way before Christmas as a kid, before trips, before seeing someone I liked. I can't remember the last time I felt that. If you clicked on this video, maybe you can't either. Maybe you've noticed this weird flatness in your days. Everything is fine. Your life is fine. But nothing lands anymore. Nothing gets through the glass. You're not depressed. You don't think so, anyway. You show up. You laugh at jokes. You go through all the motions of a normal life. But the color drained out somewhere along the way, and you're not sure when or how to get it back. I want to talk about this, but I don't want to do the thing where I give you a morning routine or a productivity hack or 5 steps to feeling alive again. That stuff makes me want to throw my laptop out the window. I want to talk about it the way I'd talk about it with a friend, as someone who's been in this place, as someone who's sometimes still in this place. Here's what it feels like for me. I wake up and there's no dread, but there's no anticipation either. The day is just a list of things to get through. I'll get through them. I always do. But getting through became the whole point somewhere along the way. And I'm not sure when that happened. I scroll Netflix for 20 minutes and close it without picking anything. Everything looks the same. Everything feels like I've already seen it, even if I haven't. I have dinner plans, and I'm not dreading them, but I'm not looking forward to them either. I'll go, I'll talk, I'll come home feeling exactly the same as when I left. The thing that used to happen, where I felt energized or connected or happy to have seen someone, that doesn't happen anymore. I just went out. I came home. Another evening logged. Food tastes fine. Music sounds fine. Everything is fine. The word fine starts to feel like a prison. It's not bad enough to complain about. It's not good enough to celebrate. It's just fine. Endlessly, relentlessly fine. The weird part is I remember when it was different. I remember being so excited about a movie that I counted down the days. I remember anticipation as a physical thing in my chest. This buzzing, warm feeling of looking forward. I remember caring about things in a way that made time feel different. Now everything just passes through, like I'm watching my own life on a screen. Present, but not really present. There, but not really there. I don't know exactly when this started. I think that's the scariest part. It didn't announce itself. It just crept in gradually, like fog, until one day I realized I couldn't see across the street anymore. There's a reason this happens, and it's not your fault. Your brain adapts to everything. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. Whatever becomes normal stops registering. Good things stop feeling good. Bad things stop feeling bad. Everything drifts toward neutral. This is useful if you're stuck in a bad situation. Your brain makes it feel normal so you can keep functioning. The stress fades into background noise. You adapt. You survive. That's the point. But the same thing happens with good stuff. The apartment that felt amazing the first month. Now it's just where you live. You don't notice the light anymore. You stop seeing the view. It's just your apartment. The relationship that made your heart race. Now it's just your relationship. You love the person. You're glad they're there. But the intensity faded. The butterflies died. You adapted. The job you were thrilled to get. Now it's just your job. First week you were terrified and alive and noticing everything. Now you know where the good coffee is and which meetings you can zone out in. Lottery winners report the same happiness levels a year after winning as they had before. People who become paralyzed report roughly the same levels too. This seems insane. Winning millions and losing the use of your legs lead to the same emotional place, but the research keeps confirming it. We adapt to almost everything. Your brain turns everything into wallpaper, and wallpaper is, by definition, something you stop seeing. You could have a great life and still feel nothing. Good health, good relationships, good work. Doesn't matter. Your brain converted all of it into baseline. Every blessing became background noise. Everything you should be grateful for got filed under normal. This isn't ingratitude. This isn't a character flaw. It's just how brains work. They evolved to notice threats and opportunities, not to feel perpetual gratitude for what's already secured. Your ancestors, who stopped appreciating the cave and started looking for the next danger, were the ones who survived. We're their descendants. The constant appreciation gene didn't make it. The obvious advice is to add more. More novelty, more stimulation, more experiences. Travel somewhere. Try a hobby. Meet new people. Shake things up. Break the routine. That's what everyone says. This works for a while. New things feel like something because your brain hasn't adapted to them yet. You book the trip, you feel alive, you come home, and 3 weeks later, you're back to baseline. The photos on your phone are the only proof it even happened. So you need a bigger trip next time, a more intense experience, a higher dose. The weekend getaway that used to excite you now feels underwhelming. You need the 2-week adventure, the exotic location, the thing you can post about. Same with everything else. A first date used to be thrilling. Now you need fireworks immediately, or you're bored. A good meal used to be an event. Now you need the reservation everyone's talking about, the chef everyone's following, the experience nobody can get. This is the trap. Each hit requires more. The threshold keeps rising. You're chasing a feeling that keeps receding, always just out of reach, always requiring a bigger gesture to access. I've watched people try to solve numbness with more. More travel, more experiences, more relationships, more purchases, more everything. They get busier and busier, filling every gap with novelty, and they end up exhausted and overstimulated and still numb. Maybe more numb than before, because now they've proven that even the big stuff doesn't work. More isn't the answer. If your capacity to feel is broken, throwing more experiences at it just confirms it's broken. You need to fix the capacity itself. And that requires something different than adding more. It might require subtracting. I've been reading Camus again lately. He's one of those writers I come back to when things feel flat. He wrote about meaninglessness, about absurdity, about the gap between what we want and what we get. Heavy stuff. The kind of philosophy that sounds depressing when you describe it at parties. But Camus wasn't depressing. That's what I like about him. He looked at the void and didn't flinch. He acknowledged that the universe doesn't care, that meaning isn't built in, that we're all going to die and be forgotten. He said all that, and then he basically said, so what? Live anyway. Feel anyway. Love anyway. The meaninglessness doesn't give you permission to check out. If anything, it makes the living more urgent. When Camus was young, he wrote these essays about Algeria, where he grew up, about swimming in the Mediterranean, lying in the sun among Roman ruins, the smell of flowers and the heat of stone. There's this desperate happiness in the writing, joy that knows it won't last but exists fully anyway. It's hard to explain. You have to read it. He was broke, sick with tuberculosis that kept threatening to kill him, living in a world heading toward war. None of that stopped him from feeling the sun, from being present to what was actually there. Years later, after the war, after fame, after his marriage fell apart, after he and Sartre had their public falling out, after everything got complicated and heavy, he went back to Tipasa. He was looking for the feeling he'd had 20 years before, the joy, the presence, the capacity to feel the sun and actually feel it. And at first he couldn't find it. The ruins were the same. The sea was the same. He was different. He walked around in the rain, feeling nothing. Cold, grey, flat. He started to fear that maybe the capacity for that kind of joy belonged to youth, and he'd used his up. Maybe you only get so much, and then it's gone. This went on for a while. The place that used to make him feel alive just felt like wet stones and bad weather. Then something shifted. He doesn't explain exactly what, but he wrote this line I keep thinking about. In the depths of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. It sounds like Instagram motivation now. People put it on posters and coffee mugs. But in context, it's not motivational. It's not saying stay positive or look on the bright side. It's saying something specific. The capacity for feeling doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not something the world gives you or takes away. It's in you regardless. Invincible means it can't be conquered, can't be destroyed. The external world can be cold and grey and dead, and that thing is still in there. The rain didn't stop. His life didn't get easier. The ruins didn't suddenly become golden. But he found access to something that had been there the whole time. The winter didn't turn into summer. The summer was already there, underneath. I don't have 5 steps for this. I have some thoughts. Take them or leave them. The first is that adding more usually doesn't help. If you're numb, piling on experiences just buries you deeper. You might need less, not more. Less noise, less stimulation, less scrolling, less input. I know this is annoying advice. Just unplug and meditate. Whatever. But there's something to it. When you remove the constant input, you start to feel what's actually there. The numbness reveals itself as a defense against overwhelm. It's not that you can't feel. It's that you've been protecting yourself from feeling too much, and the protection became the default. Take the overwhelm away, and sometimes feeling comes back on its own. Not immediately, but eventually. The second thought is about attention. Camus lying in the sun at Tipasa wasn't doing anything special. Millions of people lie in the sun every day and feel nothing. The difference was that he was actually there, present, letting the experience in without commentary or distraction, not planning the next thing while experiencing the current thing, not taking a picture for later, not thinking about what it means or what he'd write about it, just being there. This is harder than it sounds. We're trained to be elsewhere, to plan ahead, evaluate, compare. Your brain is always running ahead of your body, scheduling and anticipating and worrying. But experience only happens in attention. If your attention is fragmented, your experience is fragmented. And fragments don't feel like much. They're just content, data, input that gets processed and filed. The practice is simple but hard, noticing where you are, what you're actually sensing, letting experience be experience without immediately turning it into content or story or something to share or analyze. I'm bad at this. I spend most of my time thinking about things instead of experiencing them. But sometimes I catch myself doing the other thing, actually tasting food, actually feeling water on my skin. It's different when you're there. The third thought is about expectations. One reason nothing feels exciting is that we've already processed everything before it happens. We've seen pictures, read reviews, heard opinions, formed expectations. By the time the actual experience arrives, we're just confirming what we already knew. You go somewhere new, but you've seen it on Instagram 100 times. The Eiffel Tower looks exactly like the Eiffel Tower. The beach looks exactly like the beach. The experience becomes a recognition, not a discovery, a checkbox, not an adventure. No wonder it doesn't feel like anything. You already experienced it. The real thing is just the verification. I don't know how to fix this completely. Maybe you can't, but noticing helps. Catching yourself expecting instead of experiencing. Sometimes just seeing the pattern creates a gap, a moment where you're actually encountering something instead of confirming it. The fourth thought is about action. When you feel nothing, paralysis sets in. Why do anything if nothing feels good? The inertia becomes its own justification. You stop doing things because you don't feel like it, and the not doing makes the not feeling worse. You get stuck in a loop where numbness causes inaction, and inaction reinforces numbness. Camus called his response revolt, just refusing to accept paralysis as the final answer. Acting anyway, creating anyway. You don't feel motivated, doesn't matter. Waiting for motivation is how you stay stuck forever. Writers know this. You don't wait for inspiration to write. You write, and sometimes inspiration shows up in the middle. Usually it doesn't. But the words accumulate either way. The work gets done. And occasionally you look up and realize an hour passed without you noticing. Flow showed up without an invitation. Motivation follows action more often than action follows motivation. This feels backward, but it's true. Start doing the thing and see if you start wanting to do it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. Either way, you broke the paralysis. You did something. That's not nothing. Camus died at 46 in a car crash. Random, stupid, pointless. He'd been planning to take the train, but a friend offered him a ride at the last minute. The car hit a tree, and that was it. They found an unfinished novel in his bag, along with his unused train ticket. He didn't know that morning was his last. He didn't get to finish. He didn't get to say goodbye. I think about this when I think about him. He wrote so much about living intensely, being present, squeezing everything from each moment. Then he was just gone, like anyone can be. He didn't wait to feel like living. He just lived, even when things were hard, even when he felt the winter more than the summer. I don't know if any of this helps. The numbness is real. I'm not pretending you can think your way out of it. Some people need therapy. Some people need medication. Some people need to change their circumstances in ways that are hard and scary. I can't tell you what you need because I don't know you. I'm also not promising this will work. I hate videos that promise. Do this one thing and feel alive again. Right. If it were that simple, no one would be numb. But the capacity to feel is still in there. That part, I believe. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's underneath all the adaptation and overwhelm and noise. Invincible, like Camus said. You can't destroy it. You can only cover it over. And what's covered can be uncovered. Less noise helps. Attention helps. Action despite inertia helps. Stopping the search for the thing that will fix you helps. Weirdly. The optimization, the self-improvement, the endless trying to become something. Maybe you don't need to become anything. Maybe you need to be here. Camus at Tipas wasn't achieving anything. He was lying in the sun, swimming, walking through old stones, just existing as hard as he could in whatever moment he happened to be in. That was the whole practice. Being there. Actually being there. He died at 46 in a car crash. Random, stupid, pointless. He'd been planning to take the train, but a friend offered him a ride at the last minute. The car hit a tree, and that was it. They found an unfinished novel in his bag, along with his unused train ticket. He didn't know that morning was his last. He didn't get to finish the novel. Didn't get to say goodbye. Just gone. Like anyone can be. He wrote so much about living intensely, being present, squeezing everything from each moment. Then he was just dead. Random. No lesson, no meaning. Just a car and a tree, and the end. I think about this when I think about not feeling anything. How the feeling doesn't wait. How life doesn't pause until you figure out how to experience it properly. It just keeps happening, whether you're present for it or not. Camus didn't wait to feel like living. He just lived, even when things were hard, even when he felt the winter more than the summer. The living came first. The feeling followed. Sometimes the universe doesn't answer. It doesn't care. It offers nothing. And yet, here we are, still wanting, still seeking, still capable of feeling warmth on our skin when we let ourselves, still capable of being surprised, still capable of presence even when presence feels impossible. That's the invincible summer. It doesn't depend on meaning. It doesn't depend on your life working out. It doesn't depend on finding the right trick or the right morning routine or the right answer. It just depends on you being here. Actually here. You're still watching this, still looking for something, still here. The capacity is still there. It always was. You can't destroy it. You can only forget it's there. In the depths of winter, an invincible summer. Not a promise that everything will be okay, just what's true.